This video presents content from Chapter 3 of the book Sustainable Living and World Peace. This video is the first of 3 videos on a section entitled Republican Virtue. The following quote is attributed to John Adams. Public virtue cannot exist without private, and public virtue is the only foundation of republics. There must be a positive passion for the public good, the public interest, honor, power, and glory established in the minds of the people, or there can be no republican government nor any real liberty. And this public passion must be superior to all private passions. Men must be ready, they must pride themselves, and be happy to sacrifice their private pleasures, passions, and interests, nay, their private friendships and dearest connections, when they stand in competition with the rights of society. The Founding Fathers of the United States had researched governments and nations of the past when forming the government of the United States. Their research on forming a republic where the citizens would actually be responsible and in charge, and not a monarch, led them to understand that citizen and government corruption would be a threat to the existence of the republic. They thought that the citizens and government needed to remain virtuous in their actions in order for the republic to succeed. The people would need to put the nation's valued human freedoms and rights ahead of their own self-interests. There would not need to be a strict or coercive government if people's own virtues directed their actions in a way that was consistent with the nation's values. They felt that the citizens' personal virtues would uphold the nation's public virtues, and that without this, a republic would not endure. Private and government corruption could lead to the government attempting to maintain order through laws and coercion. The following are a few quotes that shine a light on how important virtue has been thought of for the continuation of the republic and the preservation of human liberties. If you get nothing else from this book than a deeper understanding of the importance that virtue has played and needs to continue to play in American society, and really the importance of virtue in all societies, then your reading of this book will have been invaluable. All of the following quotes and the names of whom they are attributed to were obtained from www.liberty1.org/virtue.htm, which is a link from the Institute for American Liberty website. It is well worth visiting their website and exploring through their site. The following quote is attributed to George Washington. Human rights can only be assured among a virtuous people. The general government can never be in danger of degenerating into a monarchy, an oligarchy, an aristocracy, or any despotic or oppressive form so long as there is any virtue in the body of the people. The following quote is attributed to Thomas Jefferson. A nation as a society forms a moral person, and every member of it is personally responsible for his society. The following quotes are attributed to Benjamin Franklin. Sell not virtue to purchase wealth, nor liberty to purchase power. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become more corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. The following quote is attributed to James Madison. To suppose that any form of government will secure liberty or happiness without any virtue in the people is a chimerical idea. The following quote is attributed to Richard Henry Lee. It is certainly true that a popular government cannot flourish without virtue in the people. The following quotes are attributed to John Adams. The only foundation of a free constitution is pure virtue, and if this cannot be inspired into our people in a great measure than they have it now, they may change their rulers and the forms of government, but they will not obtain a lasting liberty. Liberty can no more exist without virtue and independence than the body can live and move without a soul. The following quote is attributed to John Adams. Human nature itself is evermore an advocate for liberty. There is also in human nature a resentment of injury and indignation against wrong, a love of truth and a veneration of virtue. These amiable passions are the latent spark. If the people are capable of understanding, seeing, and feeling the differences between true and false, right and wrong, virtue and vice, to what better principle can the friends of mankind apply than to the sense of this difference? The following quote is attributed to Frederick Douglass. The life of the nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. The following quote is attributed to Thomas Paine. Whenever we are planning for posterity, we ought to remember that virtue is not hereditary. The following quotes are attributed to Samuel Adams. Men will be free no longer then, while they remain virtuous. No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued, when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. The following quote is attributed to Samuel Adams. A general dissolution of the principles and manners will more surely overthrow the liberties of America than the whole force of a common enemy. While the people are virtuous, they cannot be subdued. But once they lose their virtue, they will be ready to surrender their liberties to the first external or internal invader. If virtue and knowledge are diffused among the people, they will never be enslaved. This will be their great security. The following quotes are attributed to John Witherspoon. So true is it that civil liberty cannot be long preserved without virtue. But a republic, once equally poised, must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty, and by some tumultuous revolution either return to its first principles or assume a more unhappy form. The following quotes are attributed to Edmund Burke. It is better to cherish virtue and humanity by leaving much to free will, even with some loss of the object, than to attempt to make men mere machines and instruments of political benevolence. The world on the whole will gain by a liberty without which virtue cannot exist. Among a people generally corrupt, liberty cannot long exist. The following adage is attributed to Alexis de Tocqueville. I sought for greatness and genius of America in her commodious harbors and her ample rivers, and it was not there. In her fertile fields and boundless prairies, and it was not there. In her rich mines and her vast commerce, and it was not there. Not until I visited the churches of America and heard her pulpits aflame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her genius and power. America is great because she is good, and if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great.